Welcome to the Spy Collection. I'm Anastasios and this episode is about a book from the United States Office of Naval Intelligence. As you see on the top left and also in the cover, this is coming from the Department of the Navy Office of Naval Intelligence, and this is its code, ONI or Office of Naval Intelligence, and then the code, and the last part is of course a date. Here is a brief history of this book. In 1967, at the heart of the Cold War, the Ministry of Defense of the Soviet Union published a manual for training their Navy Watch officers. It is not known how, but the United States intelligence community obtained a copy of this sometime between 1967 and 1970. In January of 1971, the U.S. Naval Intelligence Support Center Translation Division, based in Suitland Road in Washington, D.C., was tasked to translate it. On September 29, 1971, the first translation was handed over to the US Navy personnel to better understand how Soviet Navy officers operate. The edition that I have here is a revised edition which was published in February 20th, 1973, and it is unclassified. Even this version have a few minor mistakes, like what you see here, which instead of Moscow says Noscow, but overall it's 400 pages of incredible linguist work of the US Office of Naval Intelligence. I will not go into any details, but to give you an overview, the book consists of 10 chapters with a typical military writing style, simple, concise, and to the point. For example, there are chapters such as duties of the officer of the watch, submarines, surface vessels, navigation methods, communication systems and rules on their use, etc. There are even appendices for anything from cheat sheets like this one that you see over here, which is for techniques for astronomical problems, or if we go to another page, let's say for example here, where we have the naval flags of the USSR. However, this artifact of the Spy Collection is a great example of multiple subjects, namely how intelligence is practically helping understanding your adversary. I'm certain with information like this, the US seamen would get a very good idea of how their Soviet counterparts operated and why. On a similar note, we can be sure that in there might have been information that resulted in changes on how the US Navy operated, purely learning from the practices of their enemy back then. Finally, I want to stress out the value of linguists in the intelligence community. Unlike what many believe, knowing a language is not sufficient to provide high-quality intelligence products like this one. You also need to understand the technical terminology, slang terms, even informal Navy expressions or nicknames that Soviet seamen might have used, and subsequently know how to map those to equivalent terms that the US Navy was using without losing any context. Even today, the role of linguists is crucial for all intelligence agencies around the world. Worldwide, navies are conducting some of the most secret and significant military operations. Intelligence like this will always remain of highly importance to be successful in those operations and be prepared for the worst-case scenario. Did the Soviet Navy know that just 3 years after its publication this manual was available to their adversary? We don't know that. On the other hand, even when the US Navy personnel knew about it, they would likely not act as if they did when confronting Soviet Navy forces, pretending to be surprised by their techniques, purely to avoid compromising this intelligence source. And this is another reason why nothing is as it seems.